Welcome back to another episode. We'll talk to you from 414. I'm at Personalities with Brother Earl. How you doing, Brother Earl?
Oh man, we good, man. We good.
Well, I got a few questions for you today about black businesses and black economics. What is your motivation on personalities?
Well, I started doing business actually when I was 8 years old, 9 years old, really. Or selling candy, we go out into the white people's areas and sell candy. This is back in the '60s, so it's we would sell candies and nuts and things like that. We had a script, and they gave us. It was a black man who owned this business too, and I knew his children because they went to the same school that we did, and so we did that every day after school. And I would come home with $25, $30. Now that was a lot of money back then, for a person, for me, being 9 years old, and I would give my mother that money to put up for me as I was selling goods and stuff. So that was, and even before that, when we moved down. I was in the house that we had moved in was a new area, but they had a lawnmower in the basement, and I would take the lawnmower. Once again, I was about 8 years old. This was before I got to selling candy. I would take the lawnmower and go door to door and ask people if they wanted to have their grass cut. And one lady, did it, and she gave me about $6. That was a lot of money during that time, and I'm only 8 years old, to cut her grass. And I don't know if I did the best job, you know what I mean, because that was my first time doing it, but I did it, So I always had that kind of go get you at that point. My mother wouldn't have it any other way. She always wanted me to be independent to a certain degree, and make sure that I supported myself as I got older, So those things kind of helped me a lot in dealing with building business, Yeah.
Okay. How you with 2026, the year that we started on black? How can we see more black businesses in the black community?
Well, truthfully, we as black people, in order to start building real functional businesses, we're going to have to start thinking how we can get out of this political, spiritual, and economic construct, because it's only going to allow us to do only so much. You know what I mean? And in order for us to do the very best we can, we need to have that freedom, so that we can start building businesses and doing the things that we need to do as a people, but there's blockage in this particular system that we're in, truthfully speaking. You know what I mean? So we're going to have to look at new ways to free ourselves so that we can build businesses. It doesn't have to be in this type of system. We can build a new system and create businesses within that system. We have to think like that, though. We can't just think that these people are going to, baby us all the time, so that we can have money and have resources and stuff. We need to build our own money system. We need to revamp. To this time in life, we have to think about revamping ourselves, pulling ourselves out of this construct so that we can get the very best that we can in life, And it's very interesting because I saw something today. I don't watch TV, it's very rare, but I saw a piece. Well, it wasn't on. It was on my phone actually. But they were talking about how this past week there were some shootings in Africa, right? The U.S. had bought guns and stuff over there and started shooting at this group, saying that they were being terrorists, just people who were, in the church and what have you. And there was a shooting. And the strange thing that I found is that, when they were talking about it, they gave a pretty good analysis on it, saying that how the U.S. comes in and gives these people these guns and creates havoc. You know what I mean? And it's really the same thing they do here. You know, look at our children. You know, with all the guns on the street, and we're not producing any guns, but there are plenty of guns on the streets. You know, that are given to our youth. You know what I mean? So it's our responsibility to take care of our children and protect our children so that they can evolve to be great beings. You know, but this system is not really allowing it. You get one here and one there, but we're talking about a majority of our people have to be at our best, mentally, spiritually, and economically. You know, and that's something that we're going to have to do. We're going to have to stop depending on other people to build for us and start building for ourselves unapologetically. You know what I mean? It's got to be that way, or else we won't make it as a people. We can't make it. We can't continue to try to fit ourselves into something that's not designed for us and think that we're going to get the very best out of it. It's not going to work like that. So it's so important for us to think economics and work on building economics for ourselves so that we can have, I always say, you know, the pigeons don't take their babies to the geese and ask the geese to teach my babies how to be good pigeons. You know, it's the geese's responsibility to teach the geese, the pigeons teach the pigeons, you know, and it's our responsibility to develop our children, you know, not sending them out to other people who have been historically hostile to our existence. You know what I mean? And that's why, see, when I talked about the guns that the U.S. brought over in Africa to create chaos, it's the same thing that they're doing here. You know what I mean? The guns coming through the Pentagon, coming to our children, you know, and our children are using them to shoot one another. You know what I'm saying? It's by design. So if we want a more healthy environment, we have to be that. We have to create that healthier environment so that we can get the best out of our children, you know, because we have so much good potential in our children, but it can't be manifested in this environment.
Yeah, we're the future.
Yeah, that's our future, man. And when we see the way that our future is going, and we have to always, you know, okay, we're here in this situation, and we have to work for them to get the things that we need, but we have to have a bigger vision to say, okay, how can we do better now? We've been working for these people. Now we want to work and build for ourselves. We did that in the earlier years, even when I grew up in the 60s. You know, after the riots and stuff like that, we controlled the environment. You know what I mean? We controlled the environment. We had the corner stores. We had the liquor stores. We, you know, as it relates to business, we were involved. You know what I mean? We had gas stations at that time. We were involved, but then they finagled us out of the Koreans and all the other people that have come in. Now, once again, we see Arabs and Koreans and different people of different ethnicities in our areas that we live in doing business. We're not in their areas doing business, and they would not allow us to be in their area, rightly so. So, you know, we have to change this. Stop begging for white people to do for us. Stop that. Stop it right away, because it's code red out here, so that we can start building the necessary things that we need. And anybody who blocks that has to be dealt with today, because this is economic warfare, you know, with these people. That's where we're at right now. And we're going to have to stand up, or else we'll be forever killing one another and dying from bad food and things like that, because we're not building and producing for ourselves. You know what I mean? And unless and until we get to that point, we're going to be losers. We are losers. And you know, and the enemy is real smart. They'll give one of us or two of us a couple little positions, you know, make them look good and stuff. Oh, I can do that too, but it's only one slot. You know what I mean? We're talking about taking our people, as great as we are, and using our abilities to build for ourselves, unapologetically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what time it is.
Yeah, we're the fathers and mothers of mathematics and science.
Of course. We've been hit over the head, and those things, and they make sure that they keep us off balance. Like I said, we don't have any gun shops or anything in our area, but there's plenty guns in our areas. You know what I mean? So they did things that are done specifically to keep us off balance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're very skillful. They'll give a couple of us, tap us on the head, and give us a job to work for them and do for them.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to stop thinking about working for somebody else and start working for ourselves. That's where my business came in, for myself, because I worked jobs.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And even as a young man, I didn't like working for other people. You know what I mean? So I was forced, to get out. And even the money system. We need a currency system, an energy system for ourselves. We have to start thinking like that. We can't always think about begging them, giving them energy, using their money. That money has their face on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's their energy. It's their currency.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We need a currency as well. We have to think like that. We have to think like that. How can we grow if we don't think like that? Especially in the times that we're in right now and the things that are happening, we're going to have to come up with new ideas that will be unapologetically for our best interest. You know what I mean? So, we've taught and gave these people everything. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we get nothing in return.
Mm.
So, but we have to give it to ourselves and not look for them to do anything else for us, because we are capable to do it for ourselves. Like I said, not being prejudiced against other people and all of that. I'm talking about what's best for our people so that we can have the best that life has to offer. If I go to not Kenya, but if I go to any area where there'd be dealing with Caucasians or what have you, when I go to their countries, they're not going to support us business-wise. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to support us. These same people who are running businesses in our areas,
Mm-hmm.
with the, different goods and services, if we go to their areas, they're not going to support us because their culture won't allow that.
Right.
You know what I mean? But we allow anybody to come in and extract revenue from us,
Mm-hmm.
And take it and send it to their countries, to help build their interests, while we're not getting balanced with that. You know what I mean? So, we can't keep going down this road and think that we're going to survive as a people. We have to, we have to prepare ourselves to do what we need to do unapologetically for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean that we deny others or not help others, but we want to make sure we do for ourselves and get the very best out of the situation that we're working on,
Yeah, we need to get away from that integration mentality and start separation and do something for ourselves.
There you go. There you go. That is killing us right now. You know what I mean? That is killing us. And like I said, when they talked about, I watched this segment today where they were talking about the guns that were brought in to Nigeria, by the U.S. They're dropping guns off to these different groups, and they're creating havoc, and that's the same thing they're doing with us. It's the same thing. They're bringing in guns, you know what I mean, to our youth, giving them guns, giving them corrupt music, giving them poor food. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then, we're killing ourselves. You know what I mean? With that formula. So we've got, we have to look at it as a state of emergency for us so that we can really understand we don't have time to play. We've got to change our methodology so that we can, I deserve the best that life has to offer. This is my thinking for me. I deserve the best that life has to offer. You know what I'm saying? And if I'm not getting that, then I need to look at what's stopping me from getting that so that I can get it. You know what I mean? We need the very best in life, that we, not the crumbs, you know, we can set up our own currency system. So we can have some of our faces on that, you know, and do what we want to do with things. We have to start thinking like that. We have to think more independently and stop depending on people who have historically been hostile to our existence. You know what I mean? And we're depending on them for our food, clothing, shelter, health care, and enlightenment of the mind. We're not going to get that.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's our responsibility to give to ourselves and to our children. You know what I'm saying? And we have to start standing up and doing what's right for ourselves unapologetically. Don't know anybody any apologetic. We're here in this dimension. You know, I'm here. Since I'm here, there are things that I have to do to sustain myself here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And we have to accept that responsibility and build on it unapologetically. You know?
I see a lot of books on the shelves. Is there any book recommendations for the people? Like your favorite books?
Oh, wow. There's so many good books, man.
We'll give you a top 3.
Get over here and see, of course, Elijah Muhammad's book is also good. You know, there's so many good books here, man, that I tell people to come on in and take a look. You know what I mean? This book is always good.
Which one's that one?
Golden Years of the Moors. This one just came back into fruition. It was out of print for a long time. So I think that he passed away, but I think his wife went ahead and worked something out to get it back into circulation, you know. So, you know, I mean, and then, I mean, one of the books that we deal with here, it's the smallest book in the store, but it's one of the heaviest books in the store, the Willie Lynch letter, you know, so that we need to really study this. And if we study it, then we can counter it because it's still operating today on different levels.
Yes, sir.
It's still operating. So this is it's a small book, like I said, but it's a heavy book when you go into the realm of it and what it's all about. So, you know, there's so many good books, man, that we could read, and we need to really start getting heavy into reading and studying. You know, not just to be doing it, but to get empowered from it. You know,
apply it and do have some action behind it.
There you go. Exactly. Let's see, somebody must have bought that. But that's a good one. This one here is a very popular book as well, man. Universal Laws. This is the 12 Universal Laws. Was that the 12? Yeah, that's the Universal Law. This is of success. This one, people really like this particular book. I haven't had it, but I sell it. I sell tons of it. You know, it's always a book that's in demand. You know, so.
Frederick Douglass said, "An honest makes a man not fit to be a slave."
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Proper knowledge, man. And that's what they don't want from us. They don't want us to be really aware, conscious with knowledge, you know what I mean? And then, you know, they take a couple of us and put us up, put us in IBM and this company and this company. There's a couple of them, but we're still working for them. I'm saying right now we need to come out of that modality of always looking for work for one another, and let's start building. We didn't come from a begging world standard. You know what I mean? We come from a people who built. You know what I mean? Who built, and we've been cut off. That's why they can come up and take a airplane and lift it in the sky because they've tapped into the sciences that we've given them. You know what I'm saying? And they're using it wickedly, but we have to come back and start tapping into these sciences so that we empower ourselves to be in harmony with nature, be in harmony with the environment, you know, so that we can have life and life abundantly. We deserve that, but mentally we've been so broke down, we just don't feel it's okay for them to have everything. But us, it's okay for us not to have.
Right.
You see what I mean? Those are the kind of, that's we call that stinking thinking. You know what I mean? And we gotta break that. You know, we gotta break that kind of thinking right now because we're in that time. If we don't follow what the times are gonna do, then we'll be swept out. You know, because we're like dead weight. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're like dead weight. We're not utilizing ourselves. We're not getting the best out of this experience here. You know what I mean? We gotta exercise more. We got to study more. We got to instill that in our children. You know what I mean? Because we want the best. And if we want the best, these are things that we have to do to qualify ourselves to get the best. If we don't qualify ourselves, we'll be off the map. You know what I mean? Off the map. We can't just say, well, black people, we always been around. Yeah, okay. You know, but we qualify ourselves. We have to qualify ourselves to stay around here. You know, or else we'll be gone because these people are making serious moves against us. You know, and they're also getting us to make serious moves against us because of our ignorance. You know, so we're a great people. You know what I mean? We already know what we've done and what we can do. Now we have to just take it and go. You know what I mean? We got to do it.
I got to end today's episode. Any last words for the people?
Man, I love my people. I see the greatness in them. I see the greatness. The greatness is there, you know, and I want us to be the very best that we can be, and because we deserve that. You know what I mean? We deserve that, and I know that if we, and that's the thing about having a business, you know, I owe black people immensely for supporting me over these several years in business. Even when I was on the street working, you know, I always got good support from my people. And so, you know, we have to come up with ways so we can show that gratitude and keep building like that, you know, and business, and we have to be business oriented so that we can get more of that kind of energy. You know what I mean? So it's been, you know, it's been a good experience for me, and I'll fight to the end for black people. You know what I mean? Because of the way I've been treated in the sense of business and how I've been supported in business. You know what I mean? That means it's oh man, it's just a powerful thing for me. You know. So yeah. I appreciate you coming in and asking the questions. I hope that it helped a little bit.
Yeah, you sure did.
You know.
Can you tell me what Personality's located at?
We're in the Silver Mill Mall in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Still right down in the Silver Mill Mall where the motor vehicle department is down there. From that's always been one of the icons, we can say. So come on down from the motor vehicle department and right in that corner there.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Check it out.
Yeah,
man.
come on in at any given time, and I appreciate you having this little short opportunity to have.
Yes, sir. What's the hours?
Tuesday through Friday, Tuesday through Saturday, noon until 5.
Okay.
It's Tuesday through Saturday, noon until 5.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And come get some books.
Yeah, come on in and
Get some
these
T-shirts.
Books, yes, get some culture and build off of that culture, you know?
Yes, sir.
We realize, you know, a lot of times we know that we did this in the past and we did that in the past, but we're not doing it now. We want to not only know that what we've done in the past, but we want to do it and take it to a higher level today. You know what I mean? We don't want to just live on the past and say, oh, we were this and we were doing that. We were, but now we want to do that and more. You know what I mean? Unapologetically, we deserve the best that life has to offer us. You know?
Black first.
Yeah, that's right. Anything that is in the way, anything that's blocking that, has to be removed unapologetically. You know?
Yes, sir. Until next time.
All right, my brother.
Peace.
Peace.